I focus primarily on teaching empaths how to be empowered and taking their skill, which is innate, and using it to be able to do things like this, because normally it took me years to be able to stand up and speak my truth. But I'm also, as you could hear, I have a lot of background in communication. So I've been studying, spirituality, communication, science, and everything. And I just felt with this topic, instead of talking about empaths, that I wanted to talk about conscious communication, and this is my version of it. We'll move on, but it's pretty much, for me, this is a survey. So that's why I put out the notes. I'm hoping that you'll go back and watch the tape, because there's a lot in it. I couldn't possibly, cover everything in an hour and a half, but I've hit everything. So it's important that you go back, and then if you want to do any research on any of these topics, that you can. But, let's get started. So, conscious communication is the use of your whole being, your mind, your body, your intuition, your spirit, to create and transform and connect your desires to the outside world and change your own thinking, feelings for powerful results. So it's basically whole being communication. It's not just speaking. There's so many ways that we communicate, especially as we've learned more about science and energy. And this is my thing. This is what I call it, because I wanted to include everything. As an empath and as who I am, I like to create a context for information. I don't just like popping out facts, because then you can't hold it together, and it's more of a system. So that's what this is. So this is really, the most important thing is to remember that you are communicating, and communication is constant, whether you know it or not, because we live in an energetic universe. And no matter what, we are communicating. And often people, it's funny, because I love communication, but people just think communication is going, hi, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, that's communication. And so the word has not been, in my mind, shown as big as it really is, because everything is in communication. So if you remember nothing else and you go back to the recording, just remember that it is important to learn that you are always communicating, and everything is always communicating back to you. The goal is to be aware of it and to be aware of yourself doing it. Oops. This is an expression. This is one of the precepts of NLP. You cannot not communicate. And these are all the ways. Do you want me to read it? Can you see it?
I like hearing you say it, but I can see it.
All right, okay. Well, it's everything communicates, everything about us. Even if we don't think, and that's what we're going to talk about in here, all these different ways. Sum total of our energy, our moods, our beliefs, our attitudes, people can feel them. Now, we might not be tuned in to knowing how to do it, and that's the thing. Learning to be conscious of what you're hearing, seeing, feeling, and what's going on, so that you can find out and decide for yourself how to communicate both back to the world and understand what's going on. So it's extremely important. We don't really believe we're three-dimensional beings. That's all we kind of think we are, but we're so much more. And so I don't know, we have been programmed, and we kind of talk about that, to believe that we have to live in our little box, in our little world, separate from everyone else. But we're really not separate. And we're not powerless. We're just starting to learn from people like Joe Dispenza and other people and scientists how much we are continually connected. How much that my feelings about you will affect you, even though it's unconscious. So it's very powerful. And so I want you to come away knowing how powerful you are. And the key is to become conscious of all these different systems that you have in the world that we live in, so that you can take advantage of understanding how to take care of yourself the best way you can. So I just wrote a whole bunch of things. There's a lot going on right now that's very confusing. And we don't particularly, what's funny? What?
Customer service.
Well, how many of us have blown it? Practically my head falls off from yelling. I don't yell, but when they start with that thing, someone from another country that has a script, and how do we not have it affect us and have our blood pressure go off, and how do we communicate to them calmly what we need? It's very important. Yeah, I mean, and it'll blow your day. It could blow your whole week, especially if you're working with the computer companies and you're working with returning computers. I've had that. That too, right, with that stupid music. We'll be right back, right? And you're like, yeah. It'll only be 2 minutes, right? It'll only be 2 minutes, and it's 20 minutes later. Oh, I'm so sorry, So, I mean, huh?
You're very important. And they say
right, yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, what does that do, right? So, I mean, all these things, or even people people are more rude today. It's amazing. They're impatient, they're rude, they're scared, and they just don't want to bother to communicate. How do we manage that without that getting to us? And how do we communicate to them to get what we need, if we need something or want to convince them of something that's important, no matter what situation? We have to be conscious. Come on. So this is part of it. 95% of our thoughts that we have during the day are unconscious. 95% we have no control over. We have a little 5% to work with to actually grow and change. Now, I know that seems crazy, and the number that was said to me was 60,000 thoughts a day. I'm like, well, how could that be possible? But then when you think about how our body is moved and learns to move and brush our teeth and do whatever we have to do, those are all unconscious things. But we are so programmed by our unconscious that then it's hard to change, or it has patterns, or we have triggers from things that have happened in the past, and we're hit with something and we don't even know why, and how do we change it? So again, being conscious, really understanding that we have to be aware and we have to take control of our minds to be able to make the shifts we need to make. So this is something from my basic training in presentation skills. There is a researcher in psychology way back, as you can see, 1971 at UCLA. And he did some experiments, and he found out that the most influential systems, and this is just the basic communication of standing in front of someone and so forth, are these three pieces: the visual, the vocal, and the verbal. The visual, obviously, is what you see. It's 55%. And people in the past have thought words were the most important. Well, words are only 7%. It's the vocal is 38%, and it's absolutely true.
So vocals like the tone of your voice?
Tone of voice, speed of your voice, and the whole. We'll go into that. But yeah, absolutely. And so you have to remember that that's really important when you're talking to someone, that it isn't the words as much as it is how you express it. And we'll go into that. And this is just something from Marshall Rosenberg, which is, we do more masks. We repeat the same thing. We go, I'm really happy today. Oh, I'm fine, I'm cool, or whatever, every day. And we don't really communicate where we're at. We also label to make things easy, and that's why we've all been put in boxes that kind of separate us, instead of really being in the present moment, to really feel and know what's going on, which is being conscious. And really understanding how to respond in this situation, instead of kind of going to our 95% programming. So visual. So visual is eye contact. I call it eye contact. It was eye communication. We learned that we're supposed to look at people 3 to 5 seconds, which was almost impossible. And it's culturally determined. People in the UK, they hardly can look at you. People in South America stare at you. It is very culturally determined. But you've got to hold your eyes on someone. That is one of the most important ways to bring them in to communication and not just look around. Movement is also important. And I was saying earlier that, I can't do a lot here, but movement, if you, let's say, doing a presentation, you want to use movement because you're going to keep people awake. And you're going to be able to move over to people and look at them and then go to different people. And it's more interesting. And people used to hide. I don't know what that is. People used to hide. Did I do that?
No, that's just a computer. That's just a computer thing.
Oh, well, it's been that kind of a day. Anyway, gestures. Again, gestures. There'll be people, well, we'll go into it. These are all kind of the goodbye. These are all the ways that you visually communicate. And what people feel from they say, okay, well, anyway, this isn't perfect, but I tried. Let's go to the next one. So this is the visual one. So facial expressions. Facial expressions are really important. You don't realize I don't know how many muscles there are in the face, but boy, if we pay attention, we can really read somebody. And so it's very important. And they really do signal a lot. And you can tell when people aren't happy or all of that, or when they have one of those phony smiles on their faces. It's like, what are they hiding? Again, if you're paying attention, you can read this stuff and you can learn who they are. And oftentimes today, I find that people are lying more. I don't know if you've experienced that, but you really want to pay attention to who you're talking to. And not any of us in this room, but there are people who just want to get away with stuff, and they lie. Are they bored, angry, sad, or whatever? And so it's really important to watch their faces as well. Because we can have plastered faces just like the mask. We can have a mask that we hide behind, but that's not going to tell you about people. But in this sense of conscious communication, you have all these ways to understand someone. So if you can't read their face, you could read their expressions. You can do a lot of different ways if you're paying attention and you're in the moment. I feel like I missed one. No, I didn't. Okay. Gestures, hand gestures, they're very important, but they have to be natural. You can't just go, I'm so excited, or whatever like that, or repetitive ones. Another ones is when someone's playing with their wedding ring because they're nervous. Yeah, and it's a distraction. But when you are you're allowing your unconscious mind, like I'm doing, I have no idea what I'm doing, to express what you're feeling, then it's natural, and then it's very, very powerful because it's real. People are so funny about Italians, and they're going like this, and sometimes it's overdone. But generally, if you just allow your hands to move instead of locking them down, that's kind of boring. So you want to make sure that you have, you allow yourself to have gestures, but don't think about it. Just allow it to happen. And it's amazing. You can go, it's a big sunrise, and you don't even realize that you're doing it, but your brain knows how to coordinate because it's important, I guess, deep system of communication that's been with us forever. And movement, again, very important. Is it too much movement? So I don't want to do this, but I could be pacing. So if I'm pacing, you're like, what the heck? And it's going to be distracting to whatever they're saying, and they're not necessarily going to look at you. So you want to have movements that's natural. It's hard for me to stand here because I want to move, because it's fun. Because can I do it? I'm going to do it. Okay. So if I say, and I want to come over here, and I just want to talk to you, and I want to explain something, and then I want to talk to you as well, you are getting a personal touch because I'm able to move to you. And it's the same thing, so I move back there. So I'm always touching my audience. And movement is also helpful, and again, this is just in presentations, but if you are in an auditorium, and if you just kind of look off into space, those people actually think that you're looking at them. So movement is extremely important. Let me grab some water. It got warm in here. It didn't get cooler. I know, who knows anymore, right? Okay, vocal expression, and that, we have telephones, whatever you call them, devices. I mean, no one hardly ever uses them anymore, but they're really important because they're the second most powerful ways to communicate is through the voice, the vocal expression, and, tone of voice, like you talked about, the speed, the ums and the ahs, the inflection, the rising and lowering of the voice is extremely important, and it means a great deal. And when you're working with someone that maybe is agitated, you want to be able to lower your energy to pull them down, because you do. We live in an energetic universe, and if you just kind of slow down and do that and get like maybe even a lower voice, they will calm down as well. It's amazing how powerful we are. So instead of going and matching them and getting all upset, you just try to bring it down. But again, this takes tremendous practice. We have to practice, and that's why I want you to come away with this, just knowing that we have many ways to communicate, and the most important is to be aware of what's going on in front of us and how to use all these powerful systems that really no one has taught us. I mean, I wouldn't have known a lot of this if I hadn't have, been teaching that class. So, vocal variety, we don't let monotone is anything. Where was I? And I was in a class, no, it was Sunday, I won't say who it was, and it was like, because he was so monotone, I couldn't stand it. And I fell asleep. And you must keep the energy up. That's why I'm saying with movement, gestures, voice, you're keeping the energy, because it's hard for people to sit in an audience and listen and not be involved. So it's really a very important thing to do. Any questions yet, or are we going to wait till the end? Is that better for the taping?
I have a question.
Well, go ahead.
More and more, I leave people voicemail messages, and then I don't hear from them. And then they say, oh, I never check my voicemail, I just text. Don't you text?
I know.
And that's frustrating, because I would rather talk to somebody than text. And I actually don't even have text capability. I don't have a cell phone.
I thought I had put it in here, I'm not sure, but that's the point. Here we are texting, we're using words. There's 7% of what's influential. How many times have you gotten texts and you misunderstand the meaning because there is no other system that you're using to interpret these words? And yet everybody is texting and emailing. It drives me crazy, whereas we could get on the phone for 2 minutes and within that time, and we can solve it. And I don't know how we handle that. I mean, if people don't check their voicemail, I don't know, but it's kind of sad. People are starting to send thank you notes in the mail again, instead of just depending on doing social media, because people aren't doing it anymore, and it's so personal. So people miss that. I mean, this is supposedly the loneliest, the young people are the loneliest generation ever. We're all isolated. Getting something personal like that now, that not everybody does it, is really powerful. But I don't know how we get around not bringing people back to really explaining what they're talking about with 2 words and emoji. It just doesn't do it. It is.
Requests.
Hmm?
We make requests. I ask people not to text me. Well, I don't have a cell phone, so they can't. So
Some will still
we
try.
ask people to do it differently.
Yeah, but like you said, if no one checks their voicemail, we can't.
We ask again, please check your voicemail so that you can get my messages.
Well, I think one of the most important possibilities, and I know we don't like it, but we got into it and during COVID, was the Zoom. At least we can see them. We see their gestures. We hear their voice. At least that's something. And so setting up a call, setting up anything like that, at least brings that back. Yeah.
Most smartphones today have a function where you can send a voice message like a text. So you talk into it, it can be like 2 minutes.
Right.
Send it off.
Right.
It's a good middle ground for a lot of people.
I don't know how many minutes or how long is it, because I've done it, but I do it short.
Mine doesn't do it, but I don't know.
Mine does. Is it a while? Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Well, that's something.
Just check your spelling before you send it.
Oh,
Yeah, it messed up a number of things to clients, and it's like, oh, man.
I know.
Sorry about that.
Oh, and the spell check or correct, and then it'll come up with something so stupid anyway, and you haven't said that. But we have to work with this, I mean, I think having the intention to be as personal as we can, to be able to be aware that we want people to understand what we're saying in whatever way that is, in whatever medium that is. It's really important. And not just kind of, like a lot of people now just send texts and they don't care. And if we want to really connect with the world, we want to have our power in the world, we want to be able to use all the systems and understand that we have that power to do that if we stay in the present moment and we are really working with them, and we'll bring in other things in here too. So, here we are with the verbal, again, 7%. Language, what kind of language are you using? And again, it could be a matter of what kind of language does your audience use? I mean, you want to match people. You don't want to just, that's really important too, and we'll be getting more into that. It's really important to use stories. Stories are wonderful because they get into the child part of the brain and they go past the resistance to somebody. So using that in any kind of form or metaphors is really powerful stuff. Another important thing, this is how you find out your audience. I mean, an audience saying it could be someone in front of you. It's not just an audience. But when you're in the present moment and you're listening, you can hear and feel so much. And so it's really important to do that. And so many people, I don't do it that much anymore, that they're in their heads already formulating an answer. But that doesn't help you understand how to connect with a person. And our whole desire is to connect with someone to either get what we want or communicate our ideas or whatever else. Connection, create a relationship with people. So being able to actually listen, and I love the look on her face, she's really listening. And being able to really understand with your whole being what's going on. And allowing your unconscious mind or your intuition to give you what you need to say next, so that you're really connecting at a very deep level in that moment. It's really, really important. People, I don't know if you've ever walked into a room and it's like you just see someone and everybody's drawn to them, and then there are people who are like, no thank you. And it's not, you don't know what's going on with them, but you can feel their energy. And it's really important to pay attention to that. Am I drawn to them or repulsed by them? And that can happen in a networking group or whatever. Why don't I like that person? I don't know. They seem okay to me, but you want to pay attention to that for yourself. And if it's something or a situation where you need to communicate with them, it's important to pay attention. Often, like with empaths have gotten involved with narcissists because they don't pay attention to what is really coming at them. They're snowed by all the charm and all the stuff. And so really paying attention in any relationship before you get involved to what you're feeling. That's a gut feeling. That's an intuition. It's there for a reason. It's one of our best things that we have that tells us what's really going on. So much is out here that people are presenting, but that's not who they are. And then this, just if someone is, you can feel, that you can feel that they're spouting these assumptions that are so alien to you, and it's like, I don't want to hear it, and what do you do with someone like that you feel that way? How do you manage that? Pretty much, if you need to talk to them, again, you become aware. I'm aware this person is not someone of my ilk, but I'm going to respect them, and if I can't be around them, I will find a way to move on. But, people have very strong opinions about religion and politics and stuff, and you're not like that at all. How do you deal with that? And we don't want to alienate people, and we don't want to argue with people, and we don't want to go to war anymore. We want to unite. And I think that's one thing about Ashland. I think we're very conscious of that. So how do you deal respectfully with those kind of people? But you feel it because their way they talk, or even our own prejudice against an accent. Somebody from Texas that comes in with their boots on and their 10-gallon hat, and you're thinking the words Trump. Maybe it's not even true, but you're assuming, and even your own assumptions get in the way of understanding someone. So that's why the active listening and the paying attention to their gestures and the way they talk, and even bringing in subjects that are more neutral and how they are with that, and trying to get them away from that and just getting more into their humanity. But what's all of the stuff we have in our own heads is so much prejudice and so much definition and labels, just like Marshall Rosenberg said in that quote, that we miss relationships and opportunities perhaps to be able to work with people. And then there's the voice in your head. Anybody have a voice in your head that's critical? That voice, while you're trying to connect, can be going nonstop. And this is ridiculous. This person is stupid, whatever. And is it supportive of you? We want to work also with our inner communication. We want to make sure that it's a supportive voice, and that takes work, and that takes mindfulness, and that takes being able to know that it's just, the stuff in our head is just a recording. It's a computer that has a program that was installed at a certain point. It's not reality. It's not who we really are. and really taking the time. So this is where spirituality kind of comes in, and science and understanding how to not pay attention to this stuff and to dismantle it. Also, if there's anger in you and you're angry and you're hearing that in your head, that's going to obviously distance you from people and not help connect you to anybody. It's just going to push away people. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to be present, to give our best, to be there, to enjoy life, to be able to get our points across, to be able to feel safe enough, whether you're an empath or not, to be able to be authentic. And all this craziness in your head, you know, and people talk about that, it's crazy. We've learned it at an age where we did not have the opportunity to critically evaluate what went into our minds. And apparently, went from 1 or 0 to about the age of 6, we have delta brain waves. And it's just a tape recorder. So it's just coming in. And we live off those false beliefs. We have to be really aware of listening to them and cleaning them up, because they're not necessarily true. Mostly they aren't. There was something that was passed on from generations, possibly, from our culture that we're not even part of anymore. Rules that don't matter, that we're still, you can't do that as a woman, or who knows what your brain can tell you. And it's not true. We want to be self-determining, not have programs that are obsolete running us. I brought in old Joe. I love him. Yay. And, you know, so now we're talking about energy. And from what we know, you know, for Joe is really a pioneer in this. It's amazing, his story about, he was a chiropractor, and the man is just incredible with, you know, brainwave studies and everything. Everything is energy. And he knows that we can go from 3 dimension to 5 by changing the brain waves and changing our minds. And so we want to be experiencing higher energy levels. So that's where my chart comes in. Hold on. I also did some work with tapping, and it was modern energy. And I'll come here. Can I come here? Is that good? And really, when you're in the dumps, or you're down here, so this is that lower energy, what happens? Nothing good. There's no way that you can bring love to that if you're feeling crummy, or you're angry or resentful. Resentment is one of the worst to hang on to. It destroys your life. Fear, this is where all this lives. And if you can move up, you can see that, past the 0, and you start to have more positive thoughts, and you find a way to bring joy into your life, and, you know, by music, or just developing yourself, or having hobbies that you love, or whatever else, the more you live here is where the miracles happen. This is where the synchronicities, here we go, the synchronicities live. It's really important if you don't want to stay down here as much as you can. You want to find getting control of your systems to be able to bring happiness into your life. That's what positive psychology is about. That is what we want to be, is that way. But we've been so programmed to be afraid of each other and the world and what's happening next, and listening to the news, that we can stay here and we'll end up on antidepressants. We'll end up thinking that we're mentally ill. Just to bring in a little bit about empaths, a lot of empaths, because we're so sensitive, have been told that we have mental illness and have been put on drugs because we're sensitive and not trained to use this incredible ability, this innate ability to come up here and manifest great things.
What's the big red teeth?
That's anger.
I thought maybe.
Yeah, and that's depression. That's fear.
So that's actually pretty far in a short way.
Oh, yeah.
That's all the way over, baby. I mean, you're
Oh,
not going to
the
be,
anger?
you know, huh?
But the anger is like the third highest thing on there.
I know, isn't that interesting? So we can also put resentment in that category, you know, and I've been a victim of my own resentment from an earlier part of my life, where I was very resentful of someone. Believe me, it didn't give me the life I wanted. So really working hard to and there's so many resources on the internet now. It's amazing. Are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Question about the anger, like it's a positive vibration. Why is that? Like, is it not sustainable?
I'm not sure, but I think it's so, you know, it's when we're angry, we blow. It's,
Intense.
yeah, but it's in a negative way. It's not over here where we're joyful and doing
It's a
it.
two-way graph. I mean, the energy is this way, but the positivity is
Right.
along the bottom
Right.
So you have a tremendous amount of energy when you're angry, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily
Well,
positive.
there's a lot of.
Well, it can be if it propels you to some high, okay, I read a book about that, and it kind of, it's like it can be, think about it, if you're depressed and despairing,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just going down the hole, if you can just get to the anger and get it out.
Right, well, that's
it's gonna
different.
propel you
Right.
in a different direction.
It's absolutely true, and that's what Abraham Hicks says. You have to come up the scale. You can't just jump from anger or fear all the way over
You
here.
just want to stay in the anger.
Right, and a lot of people have tremendous unconscious anger that's kept them there, and they don't want to let go because anger can feel powerful, doesn't it? But it really isn't. It's good when to get you out. It is. It is. So we want to be able to find ways to get in these higher energies, and that's exactly. It's like when you're in love, or you're just happy. Things come to you, and synchronicities show up, and everything works, and someone pays your toll or does something for you, and you're like, wow, and you don't remember your problems. That's so interesting, isn't it? When we're over here, everything is our fear and our bills and all that. When we're over here, it's like, they're there, but I don't really pay attention to them. It's a whole other way to live, and it's really important to get there as much as you can.
Are there words that go with the different steps to see?
Not well, I mean,
On the chart, were there?
no, there weren't words. No, it was.
Okay, just,
But it's just energy, and that's what we're talking about here. When you have all this anxiety, resentment, you have the hormones of stress, and that is also very negative to your body. You're bringing cortisol and all those horrible things into it, and you do that enough, and you destroy your body. In my opinion, and in my spirituality, I believe we're here to be happy, and that higher power wanted us to be that way. This stuff is not what it was intended, but it's been built into our world and our society. So we want to make sure to do as much coming from the heart, which is the next section, as we can. We have the heart to help us be there. So that's a modern energy chart one. Okay. If you want to do some research on the heart, go to heartmath.org. HeartMath has been in Boulder, it's not Boulder Creek, but it's down near Santa Cruz, and they have been doing research. Boulder? No, because it's near Santa Cruz. But whatever it is, they have been working, forever to get people to understand the power of the heart and how the heart synchronizes the rest of the body. It's also, as we know, where love lives and where joy lives. When you ask people, let me ask you something. Point to yourself and tell me who you are. Point to yourself. Why? Why do you think you point to your heart? Well, you're pointing to, north by northwest. But then you would. But anyway, kidding. We point to ourselves because this is where we really live. This is not where we live, but we have been trained to think that the intellect is the most important. And when I was a child, IQ, everything was IQ. What the heck? There was no sense that the heart or any of our emotions mattered. You had to be smart. It was all about being smart, and that's really not true. The heart, and you can do more research on it, the more you focus on what's in your heart, the more that you give yourself the love from your heart because it's there for you, the more your life will transform and the more good things come in. But it also regulates the body and the breathing, and they're just such an amazing resource, and it changes consciousness, and it brings us all together. So, that's another, really remembering that you have this incredible resource. And the heart or the body was designed to have the heart run it, the heart and the love and the kindness and the compassion and the unity for all of us, and then the mind to be able to do the things that we have to do during the day. It was not meant to live our lives for us. But we got turned around, heaven knows when people wanted power over people, or who knows. But that the heart and the mind, if they are balanced, and the mind and the ego are healthy, and they're being run with the heart, you're happy, you're healthy, you care about people, things come to you, you get what you want, you're satisfied with life, whatever. So please remember that that's a really big piece. And then developing your trust and intuition. I love this picture, it's kind of wild. Our intuition, again, this is a connection when you can pull into the inside of you. You are connecting with the higher power through your heart. And it's something you have to develop and remember that's there. That still small voice. I can hear it sometimes, or things come when little things, but when it comes to the big stuff, I have yet to learn how to allow those thoughts to come. But when they do, they're always right. When I have an intuition and I really let it run, it's never wrong. So we want to make sure to also have that as our conscious communication source, our intuition. And we can just start to pay attention, becoming more and more aware, listening, and then we can be able to develop it. And there are also classes. There's so many resources now to be able to develop these wonderful parts of us. Fear has just been it. And it's a fabulous way for people to control people, right? And it's gotten so out of control. And it's so sophisticated in the way it's being done. How much has been programmed by the media that it's just, and people they don't realize how they're being programmed to be fearful. And then
A lot of fear being generated right now.
That's right.
If you look at the newspapers, they say, oh, the stock market, is it going to crash? And what about COVID? It's coming back, and we'll have to have more shots. And
monkeypox or something, right?
Yeah,
Monkey,
monkey,
yeah.
yes.
Who knows what it is? It doesn't matter. But the thing is that I was in broadcasting very briefly, and I was in a newsroom, which was quite an interesting adventure. And I was the person who ran around having people yell at me because I was very young. And all they did was curse constantly. They were so neurotic. And all they did was take like a scanner, it could have been a scanner from police or from the fire department, and they would embellish it. And then the broadcaster would get on and tell this big story about something that was nothing. They'd make it up. So the writers wanted credit for being able to create this stuff, and it was a bunch of BS. And now it's even worse. That's how they get advertising dollars to increase, is by doing this. Just like the crazy ads about the drugs, which I always thought was insane. Yeah.
I have the impression that kind of of course these categories are absurd, but like the left-wing media is based on fear, like NPR is constantly activating your fear. And more of the right-wing media is really based on anger and activating your anger. And if you watch that, you'll see like an angry face. And it's almost impossible not to react with anger yourself. But it's like you have like fear junkies and anger junkies.
And it's bad, but looking at that chart, they're all down there, and they're sure not going to help your life. So, not listening to it and finding, again, doing your own research or just not paying attention and knowing that a lot of this stuff is going to pass. And doesn't necessarily affect your personal life, in your life. And so what's the point of taking it on and staying up all night worrying about it when it absolutely isn't going to affect you in the least? And things pass. So we want to make sure to do that. But fear it comes from the limbic brain. That's our ancient brain, and that's the brain that is worried that the saber-toothed tiger is going to come after us, and it's still activated. And if we have been living by the hormones of stress, we are going to get activated by the smallest things. That was like, people, that yell at you in your car or are impatient and you can't even talk to them anymore. We're so triggered to be like that. We have to dial it down. We have to make sure that our system is not reacting off that. All it does is separate us, ruin our lives, and give us absolutely nothing. And it is something that that limbic brain still responds to. And so if we're sensitive to that, and empaths are more sensitive with their amygdala, which is that fight-flight thing, than others, it can be really challenging because you'll have a reaction. You don't have to react to it in the sense of taking it out into the world, but it doesn't make you feel very good. So you've got to really pay attention to what's going on with fear. Is it real? Is it not? Do I want to feel this? It's a program. I'm going to go the other way. I mean, this is all about controlling and being conscious of yourself and what you want and how you can live in this world by really gathering information, being who you really want to be, and making informed decisions from what you want in your heart and your intuition and whatever else you want to do. So just kind of the reasons for, cultivating conscious communication, which, as I said, it's whole body communication in a way. It's all these different parts that we communicate and people communicate back to us. And it's really important to be aware. I mean, that's the whole thing with consciousness. Our consciousness has risen on this planet. And because of it, we're learning these things about science and the fact that even these little cells or whatever, atoms or quarks or leptons or whatever they're called, react when then something is looking at them. That'll change. We are constantly moving back and forth and reacting to each other because we live in an energetic universe, and we are made of energy too. So it's really important to get a handle on yourself and not just kind of float along doing what you've done and letting your unconscious mind run you. So this is my program. My program is called True Heart Training. and essentially two things. I work with empaths, and I also work with communication and helping people deal with their inner communication and also how to connect with the outside world. Some people are just really locked down in knowing how to connect at all and talk to people. They're shy. They've been quiet for too long and they don't know how to come out. And so we do that. I do that in individual sessions, and I'll do this last one. I have a community support group for empaths starting on the 24th, and I'm just going to do it every 2 weeks, bringing us together because we really need to. Empaths are 20% of the population, and a lot of people don't understand how different we are and what we need. So I just want to bring us together as a community, so I'm starting that. And I also do a complimentary 30-minute session for anyone that just wants to talk to me about what they're dealing with, and can set it up by going to my website and my calendar and setting up an appointment. So I've loved working with you. Thank you all for being here. And I love that snap. Do you have any questions just before we break it up? Everybody pretty okay? It's a lot of stuff, so I'm just recommending that when it's up, that you watch it again, and because each subject I could do a whole day on, right? Because it's really been a survey, so please do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.